Hey everybody, this is Sue Craig, your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Cleveland, Ohio. And today I have a beach card for you. This is the card that we're going to make. And the sets that we're going to use are Rolling Waves. And this I'm using just the stamps. I know you've seen a lot of people use the dies with this, but I wanted to try to create some cards without the dies in case that's all you can afford is just the stamps. We're also going to be using Relaxing Waterside. The only thing we're using from this one is the chair. We're going to be stamping it and using the dies to cut it out. This has a really nice set of dies. And I've got them scattered here, there, and everywhere, but I have taken a few of them out so that I could use them. So the Adirondack chair is here, and the greenery and all the other things, which is pretty cool. And then I have my stamps. I keep them all in the same envelope so that when I pull out one, I have them all together. So let's see what it's going to take to make this card right here. Ahead of time, what I did was I took a piece of Azure Afternoon and I stamped it and then die cut it. So that's ready to go. We have our card base, and this is Coastal Cabana. It's 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. And I used Azure Afternoon as my background here, and you'll notice that in the card, it's a little bit smaller than we typically would use, just so that you could have a nice frame around the beach. The Azure Afternoon piece is 3 3/4 by 5. And I have two pieces of white cardstock. They are both the same size, 3.5 by 4 3/4. And these are the ones we're going to start with. We're going to be doing the stamping for the front of the card and on the inside, and this can change. Now on the inside, I did my stamping a little bit more sideways so that it was angled and it didn't take up the whole piece, so that you could write or do whatever you want with the sentiment inside. I didn't put a sentiment inside. I have "You're in my thoughts" here, and then left it blank so that it could be used for whatever occasion is needed. So let me show you what we're going to be doing. These stamps are very large, and because of that, I'm going to show you how I ink them up. I'm going to be using Pool Party and Crumb Cake for my water and my sea. And when I use, let me move this, you'll be able to see a little bit better so I can glue later. But you can see this is a pretty big stamp, and I turn it upside down and then I put ink on it this way. And I found it doesn't really matter which way you go with these. I mean, you can see this way it has ins and outs of the water, and if you turn it this way it has ins and outs of the water. So it really depends on what you're looking for. And I found it was nice and easy to kind of turn my cardstock so that I could work this way and see what I was doing at an angle. And you can see I have some white on the edges. No big deal. You can just go ahead and add some more to that. Same with the other side. Let me move my mat here. There we go. Now I'm going to do the inside also before I clean this, because I'm going to use the same stamp for the sand. And like I said before, I want to do this inside kind of at an angle. And I'm going to use this part of it. Here we go. Okay. We'll clean this off. And we'll add the next layer that's going to be in the same color. And this is what I call the bubble layer. This is the layer that we're going to go next. And you'll see when it gets stamped that it does have the bubbles on it. So it's kind of like the foam part of your water. And again, to me, it did not matter which way you stamped. It can go either way, but you can see that now it really looks like water. What I'm going to do is flip it over and do the other side so you can see what that looks like. So I did it this way, and now I'm going to turn it and do it this way, and we'll see what that looks like. Okay. And it's okay if you have a little bit of white in there, because that's exactly how the ocean is. You have the waves coming in and out. That's how it works. All right, we're going to use the same one that we did for the water, the very big one. We're going to use Crumb Cake with that. And I had many people ask in my class why I was doing it this way. Why did I put the water here and the sand up here? Usually we see the sand down here and the water up here. Well, if you notice with the chair, when you sit down in a chair at the beach, you are facing the ocean. And that's what this chair is. It's facing the ocean. You don't turn your chair and face the sand. Now you could have sand right here under the chair, but then you would want some kind of water to show that you're at the ocean. So I let people do what they wanted to do with their card. All right, so now all I did here was I stamped again, and I made sure that I left some white in between. And then I just took my stamp again and filled in places on the edge that needed to be kind of covered. And really, it's not a big deal if any of this overlaps or doesn't overlap and how, because your sand is going to look, it's moved. It does move all the time. Now, for the inside, I did not use that big stamp. I just used the small dots of stamps. And you'll see, this is pretty cool. I like how they arranged these. I just added this to give the idea that this is the beach. And certainly you could put it close here. You could also put some near or in the water. Totally up to you how much you want to do with that. You also could, if you wanted, you could put a light amount of ink up there so that you could still use the inside. All right, so down here, I just was doing our stamping off technique, full strength, and then, 2 or 3 times. And you can keep in mind too that where you have the white, you're going to have water, but you're also going to have sand. So you may want to put some of the sand down there a little bit lighter. But that gives you the basic idea of now you have water and sand, and kind of you've set a scene for your chair. Not too difficult. In my classes, I also had little things that we added. I added little starfish, and they're in a cluster of 3. So I had some people that purposely stamped off at the top so that there would only be a couple of them showing. Sometimes it is hard to use clusters of 3. because it looks the same. I also had Pretty in Pink, and I used that for shells. Now, the only reason I did that is because, again, I wanted to add something to it, and I wanted something that would stand out. So this stamp has 2 shells, and of course shells aren't going to always be in the same position, so you can put them wherever you want. You can also put them on the inside. Because they're always around. Okay. So the last thing we're going to do as far as stamping is our sentiment. You are in my thoughts. And I really liked this. You can put it wherever you like. I put it off to the side so that it would complement the chair. It's a little bit low, but that's okay. You get the idea. All right, so we have our stamping done. Now let's put this together. A lot of times when I do my cards now, I work on them flat instead of folded. Let me show you why. When it's folded, you're dealing with a card base that's flipping up in the air. And yes, you can use your bone folder and push it down. And many times it will stay down. Like, that's really nice. But if it doesn't, or if you'd rather not, you can put it flat like that. And what we'll do now is we're going to layer this piece on our Azure Afternoon. And I've had people complain about using liquid glue. You may not have known this, but this glue does have something called latex in it. When I'm going to start my glue, when I'm going to start gluing something, I always start in the middle in case there's a big blob. I don't want it going off the edge. All right, so they complain about using this because it gets all on their hands and it's hard to get off. Well, that's the latex. The latex is what helps to make it stick. So I like to use tweezers. I also like the tweezers because I can hold this over the area that I want and get it lined up. I can use my other hand and I can get it exactly where I want it. I hold it down and then release. Pretty easy to do. All right, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm right-handed, so I put my tweezers on the right-hand side. And it really doesn't matter how you put the glue on. I don't use too much glue. I mean, this is a very strong adhesive, so it's not like you have to fill every nook and cranny on that piece of paper. Again, I'm going to hold this down and pull that out. All right. Now we'll just flip it to the inside, and we'll take our white piece here. Same thing. And again, you don't have to use tweezers, but I find that this helps so that you're not having to pull up your paper and recenter, or, try to put it down again. For this part, what I did was I added some dimensionals to the back of the chair because I liked it. I like things sticking up to kind of highlight it on the card. I mean, it's really the main focus of the card. So I like to have it standing up. And again, I've seen people do this, hold it like this, and then they'll move it and see where they might want it. That way because this is resting on the table, it's holding this up high enough so that the dimensionals don't grab the paper. You know how they do that sometimes? And then you have a hard time pulling it up. So I kind of do this and get a look, or I will pull it up this way and hold the chair to see where I like it. And then I'll place it down where I want it. Again, I push down and hold this and remove that. Okay. So the last thing I'm going to do is add my embellishments. And I know these embellishments have retired, but I still had some left, and they really did look so pretty on this card. So I'm adding them to this card because to me they kind of looked perfect. So there you have it. I hope you like this card. I hope you give it a try. And thanks for watching.